any client or staff member that has a dream, I really encourage them to follow it. So one of our staff members relocated for passionate leave. So what we do is we allow anyone that wants to take 12 months off to pursue whatever passion they want.
So at City Matters here, we have a culture where we're always trying to develop our staff. So one of our top lines is we grow and develop exceptional people.
And there's this fantastic photo of them going outside for the first time in 20 years. He went outside. Our OTs were crying. The suppliers were crying.
Rachel, I want to welcome you to the Martina Tierney Podcast. You are my first international guest. So what do you think of that?
Thank you for having me.
All the way from Australia.
Yep, Sydney, Australia, representing here.
Mm-hmm. So you're Rachel, I'm going to get the surname right, Brimblecombe.
That is correct.
Is that right?
That
Tell
is
me
correct.
a little bit about your name first. Is it your married name? Is it your family name?
No, that's my family name. So we often talk about Brimblecombe. It's actually spelt Brimblecombe, but for years and for generations we've been saying Brimblecombe. I do think they tried to make it a little bit fancy by saying combe, but I do answer to anything. Brimblecombe, Brimblecombe. I get called it all.
Very good. So, Rachel, you are the CEO. Would you say CEO and founder?
Yes, founder definitely. I'd probably say shared CEO of Better Rehab.
Better Rehab Australia. Tell us a little bit about that. For those of the listening that haven't heard of Better Rehab, tell us what it is.
Better Rehab. So now it's actually crazy to think about this. My journey over to UK, I was actually reflecting on this journey because my England staff have been asking, tell me about Better Rehab, what's it about? So we started 8 years ago. I was in my lounge room, I was lecturing at the time. And
so just for the people listening, you are an occupational therapist?
Yes.
Get that cleared up at the very start.
I should say. I'm an occupational therapist. At the time, I was lecturing in neurosciences as an occupational therapist. I love that. But I remember I was sitting in the classroom. I was really passionate about it. But I did feel that I was teaching this amazing generation of OTs to go into a system that I didn't really believe in. So I remember I had a bit of a crisis and I was chatting to my husband at the time and I said, yeah, I really enjoy lecturing, but I just don't see the longevity of it because I just don't think I can continue on doing this if the system's not what I believe in. And my husband's a bit like this. He's like, oh, well, if you have a problem with something, what are you going to do to change it?
Fix it.
Yeah, exactly. In a positive way. Yeah. But that's something that I found really empowering. So I remember I was mulling over it, and that's when I started Better Rehab. And it was meant to be at the time a play on my name. So Better Rehab was meant to be Rachel Brimblecombe backwards.
Oh,
so
right.
yes,
good.
the initials. You know, the deep thinking that you do at the time.
I know. The name is always one of the things you can't come up with, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I do think it's a bit prescriptive, the name, because at the time you build a brand around it, but rehab to a lot of people means drug and alcohol. It doesn't really encompass OT.
Right.
So it is something I've talked about. So internationally, we actually go under Better Days because it is more of a globally acceptable name than something as prescriptive as Better Rehab.
So Better Rehab is an organisation or a business that employs a lot of occupational therapists, but other professions as well.
Yeah.
So who all do you employ?
So we employ occupational therapists, we employ physiotherapists, EPs, speech pathologists, psychologists, social work
EPs?
teachers. Yes. Exercise physiologists.
All right.
Yes.
We don't have that term here.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Exercise.
And
physiologist.
and allied health assistants as well. So we're across all of Australia. We're in New Zealand, America and England.
So I interviewed you for The Power of OT and you're on page 91 and we called your chapter Getting My Heartbeat Back, I think. You were feeling a wee bit disillusioned at one stage. You actually thought about leaving occupational therapy. And then I'm glad you didn't. What made you change your mind?
I think it was when Dave had that conversation with me. He said, you know, this is something that you're passionate about. You know, why don't you change the way things are done? So when I started Better Rehab, I've always had this idea that when I started, I don't want to be like everyone else. If I have a problem with the system, when I go out there, I want to do it the way I think things should be done or the way that people deserve to be treated or care I think should be provided. So that was really how we started Better Rehab. I wanted to find people that believed in providing occupational therapy at the time, because it was occupational therapy to start off with. That really challenged the way that we did things. So thinking about what is it that the person wants and how can we achieve those goals in a less prescriptive and more innovative way. So really partnering with that person.
With the person.
Yeah.
So making it about the person, patient-centred, as opposed to being very blinkered about what you were providing, which is what the system was really doing.
Absolutely. And I know this is a little bit contentious, but the way that I was trained, I was always told what I was. So I was always told, I'm a neuro OT. But if someone came in and they were outside of that norm, so they maybe had a spinal cord injury, but they had an overlay of mental health, don't touch that, because that's mental health, that's outside of your lane. And the problem is when you have that blinkered approach, and I almost start to unlearn as well, you go in and you see the person and you prescribe things from a neurological point of view, but that's actually not going to achieve the outcome that they need because you're ignoring a whole facet of that person. So I always have really wanted to make sure that when we're seeing people, we see them as a whole. We see and understand their condition, but we don't define them by that condition. We define them by how we want to or how they want to achieve their goals. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. And that is a fantastic way to approach the patient and the person. But how do you get over when, an occupational therapist might think, well, I don't have the skills in mental health. I'm very good at the rehab, at the neuro rehab, but I haven't had any experience. How do you get over that?
That is a really good question, and that is something we see a lot. But you know what? Our training is about the person, and that's what we almost forget. I think sometimes I see that people become an imposter and they devalue their own skill set. We are trained to use these models that we think aren't very effective at the time when we're at uni, but they fundamentally kind of frame the way that we think as a person. PEO, person, environment, occupation. So you might think that you could only look at a person from a neuro perspective because that's your training, but essentially it's the same thing. The foundations are the same. You are still looking at that person. You're still looking at that environment. You're still looking at their occupation. Be inventive. And if you don't know about a certain component of their condition, you can always ask someone.
So you would have that ability to cross-train or to have specialists in the areas that would maybe support someone who didn't feel confident?
Absolutely. I think that's important, but I really do think it comes down to confidence. And for me, I remember that was a big aha moment for me because when I first started, I didn't actually intend to start seeing everyone. So I was a driver-trained OT. I was going to change the world that way. And then support coordinators or referrers were begging me saying, there's such a need here, Rach. You're doing a good job from this component. And that's kind of how I got the stretch, the blur. But I was really afraid because I was a neuro OT. And then when I started seeing other people and stepping back and leaning into the training and not into the labels, I actually found that having this idea and just reflecting on how we become OTs was really effective. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I ended up getting really good outcomes for people I traditionally was told that I wasn't an expert or specialised in.
Very good. That's bound to give the occupational therapist a lot more satisfaction in their job.
I agree.
Bound to. When you can go in and you know that there's no limits to what you can do, as long as you feel comfortable about what you're delivering, as long as you've checked it and everything is safe, but that you're not confined by a referral for a share assessment or a wheelchair assessment, that you can go in there. So are you giving your occupational therapist the broad range that they go in and they just see the person and they provide whatever services they need.
I think yes, but it's also...
Are you restricted about what's, I know because this is a business, this is private and it's supported by NDIS.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you'll explain that for people in the UK or that wouldn't, you can explain that in a minute. But are you restricted then by like NDIS about what you can provide? There's certain things they'll not pay for.
And that's a really good question, because what we almost have to do is we have to be like, what is the overall aim is function. So can we, as long as you can look at that goal from a functional perspective and improvement on their life, absolutely. So sometimes I'm going to give an example. I think this is more powerful example of it. I've had situations where I've gone in and I get the referral and I'm told this person needs a shower assessment. You go in and it's not the shower assessment. It's not actually the showering that's limiting their ability to function in the community. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that they don't know how to dress. It's the fact that they don't know how to cook. Mm-hmm. So they're getting takeout or, they're relying on community support. So if I went in with the lens of going, I'm just going to do a shower assessment because that's what I've been told to do, I wouldn't have been able to achieve these economic advantages by, and participation in community if I had those blinkers on.
Yes.
So I always say the goal is function. Mm-hmm. And functional outcomes are great for society. They're what people want. Mm-hmm. That's how you get goals. But it's more about thinking at it more broadly from that lens.
Mm-hmm. And can you then, so really you can justify doing things that are not, that wasn't just prescribed by saying, well, this has improved function, this has improved the outcomes. You can justify that?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can justify it. Look, there's certain situations where you'll go in and see a client, or a participant, we call them participants in Australia, and maybe a participant wants to work on something that doesn't have functional benefits, but also giving the OT to feel confidence in themselves to say that doesn't achieve functional benefits. An example might be someone that says, I'm hot, so I want the government to pay for air conditioning, but there's no, there's no evidence to back up that they need that due to their medical condition or their disability. Mm-hmm. So those are examples where there's definite boundaries, but in terms of getting them the functional outcomes that they need or the goals, I say be very creative.
Yeah. So just talk to me about the NDIS scheme.
Yes.
It's for 0 to 65s, isn't it?
Yes.
That's your. Tell us a little bit about it and also the changes that are happening with NDIS.
So they are going to change it. It's not going to be 0 to 65.
All right.
So there's a lot of changes in Australia at the moment. So the NDIS is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And it came about because there was a royal commission into the way that disability was provided in Australia. And they found that the system was broken. People weren't being serviced properly. You had young people in nursing homes that weren't receiving any supports. So that's really the groundswell behind it and why it came about. So Julia Gillard she was our Prime Minister, she created a scheme where if you had a severe disability, you were provided with an assessment and a pool of money and you could spend it on what you needed to meet your needs.
So the participant is leading, they are leading their own care.
Yes, and you can imagine that is a fundamental change. And it rolled out at the same time that I started, and it was just like a marriage made in heaven. It was almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking that, and then this happened 3 months later.
Yeah.
So I think it's fundamentally changed the power dynamics for people with a disability. That yes, there's some issues with it. There always is. It's a huge scheme. But and there's teething problems, but it's been really good in making people with a disability feel heard. which is
So,
great.
so it's quite recent. So it's in the last 8 years, did you say?
Yeah. So they had a few trials earlier than that, but it really started to gain momentum in about 2016.
And what are the changes that are taking place now?
So there is a big cost overrun with this scheme because it started off and it was going to be capped at, I think it was 22 billion. It's now jumped up to 50. It's going to be over 100, they were saying, billion in 10 years. Right. So it's not sustainable economically from that side of things. So what they're doing is looking at making adjustments to the system to make it economically sustainable. Look, some of these changes are contentious, but what they're wanting to do is remove children from the scheme and put them through a new program they've announced called Thriving Kids. And the other thing that they want to do is change the eligibility criteria. So there's some pros and cons to it. Allied health is being affected in the new scheme because, as everyone knows with allied health, we're fantastic and we achieve outcomes, but sometimes society and governments don't realise what we can actually do.
Yeah, they don't appreciate.
They don't appreciate.
No.
Yes.
So when I interviewed you for the book, at that time you were in Australia and New Zealand, and you said that you wanted to get outside what you called the Pacific.
Yes.
And you've actually done that.
I have.
That's one of the reasons you're here. Tell us what you are doing in London and what your ambitions are for the rest of the world.
So one of the things that I truly believe in a better rehab, better days, I should say also.
Days.
Is that it's not just me. I am one cog in this wheel that's created change. So I really, truly believe any members of our community, any client or staff member that has a dream, I really encourage them to follow it. So one of our staff members relocated for passionate leave. So what we do is we allow anyone that wants to take 12 months off to pursue whatever passion they want, even if that's another job in the industry. I think it's really important. So she went over to England and pursued, that was what she did with her passionate leave. And when she was
it's
there.
It's called passionate leave.
Passionate leave. Follow your passion.
Very good.
And she came back to Australia. She sat Dave and I down, Dave's my husband, and said, I want to make a difference in the UK. I think we can take better rehab there. I'm disillusioned with the system. Everything that you talked about and all the reasons why you started in Australia is why I think we should go over there. And so Dave and I said, great, do it. And so she moved over 8 months ago, 10 months ago, and she has been leading Better Days from there. So we've got a clinic in Putney now, and we've got 5 staff members, and she's really working on changing the way that services are delivered and making sure it's less about assessment and more about what can we do to achieve the goals that you need to.
So you have 5 staff and you have a clinic, so people obviously come into you. You're not going to visit them in their own home yet?
We do. We do. So we do a mixture. What we've found is people like to come more into the clinic, but we do go out to homes. So if someone has requirements where they can't come into the clinic, we're more than happy to go out. And sometimes it's good to see people in their natural environments.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what I truly believe in schools and homes. But that is a cultural shift too in England. In Australia, it's very common to go into people's homes. And in America too, you know, there's yes and no, it is. But in England, it's not as common, I'm finding.
Right.
In London.
Right. So what have you got in the clinic? Tell me about the clinic.
So the clinic is beautiful and airy, which is great. So we've got a sensory room set up just for children to have breaks and for other.
And is it mainly aimed at children?
Mainly aimed at children, but we do falls clinics as well. And we do aged care clinics. But what I like to do is I think that it's good when you're first starting. There's so many things that you can do. And I think it's sometimes important not to get overwhelmed by all the different opportunity and go, look, it's really great. Let's start here, build a difference, create the wave here. And once we've got that wave rolling, we can look at adding other things to it and changing other areas, because otherwise that wave might just fizzle out. So that's why we're starting with kids.
Yeah. And it's mainly autism, is it? Or
autism,
a whole range?
We get a whole range. But to be honest, in England, a big need that we're finding in London is autism. There's huge waiting lists.
Yeah.
We're seeing kids that have been on an NHS waiting list for years. And because of that, they're actually they're not getting the early intervention that we need. And we know that early intervention is fundamental in people achieving, good goals and outcomes later in life. So that really, to me, is the driving force of why we're focusing on kids at the moment, to really make that difference.
So how has that been funded in London at the moment?
So privately at the moment, and
Families
through council, and yes.
And some councils are paying for that as well. Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
So Rachel, you are quite young to be running such a large organisation. So how many staff do you have at the minute?
We've got over 700.
700?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. So across Australia, you have how many regions or many?
We've got 41 offices in Australia.
41?
So all parts, all states, all territories. Quite a widespread across Australia.
How do you train? How do you keep in touch with all these people?
That is really interesting. I actually was reflecting on this the other day, because I think that as a leader, you go through different phases depending on the size of the company and where you are in the journey. So traditionally in a startup culture, really easy to keep in contact, really easy to go in there and disclose and get the passion and talk about your aims. When you get to about 10 or 20, it dilutes a little bit and it can no longer be led by you. You have to have a good group of people underneath you, one person underneath you that's helping drive the operations and the messaging. But then when you get bigger, it can't be you. In fact, you've got to be really careful, because sometimes what you say can be misquoted or taken out of context, and because it's just a bigger beast, and it's the Chinese whispers effect. So it's been really interesting, and that's been a learning for me along the way, the different hats of Rachel and the different purpose of Rachel. So in a London environment at the moment, while we're small, definitely been in that more startup, knowing all of the staff, which I continue to do throughout the business journey, different stages of the business. But now it's almost about visiting the offices, giving people the heads up that I'm turning up, not just turning up anymore, but also being really cautious about some of the messaging as well. I remember Sheryl Sandberg? She was Facebook. She started Facebook and she had a really good quote. And she said, when I first started at Facebook, I would go in and I would chat to all the staff and I'd say, this is what I'm thinking. Oh, are you doing it this way? And it was great. When she got to about 100 people, she would have that same approach, where in the meeting she would say to someone, oh, have you thought about this? And instead of it being aspirational or inspirational, people would come away and said, she picked on me. Or, she singled me out. She doesn't think I'm good enough, because the power dynamics changed.
Yeah.
So something went from being collaborative and, we're in this together, which it still is, to that's a threat bomb, because the size and my role has changed along the way. And that's not the staff's fault. It's just the nature of the size of the company. So I very much experienced that, where I thought that I could come in and say to staff, what are you thinking about this? And I could have had good ideas and intentions, but it came across as a threat bomb, as it should. Can you imagine? Like, of course it feels that way. So it was really important for me also to learn my role and how I can motivate people without throwing out these threat bombs as the business grows.
So how did you learn this? Did you read more books? Did you attend seminars? How did you develop yourself, first of all, to become the leader that you are?
I think it was...
Or was it natural?
No, I think there was a component where I would walk away from conversations and go, oh, I think they misconstrued what I said. Or you would hear back from someone saying, oh, Rachel said this, and through the grapevine, it would be misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reflecting, going, what's going on here? And in actual fact, that's got nothing to do with the clinician. It's got something to do with the messaging. Mm-hmm. So then that's when I thought about it, reflected on it, and talked to other people in business to go, is this something that you experience? Have you noticed this? And generally, yes, it is. It's something that is quite universal, but some people are aware of it and some people aren't. So, yeah, that's a really good question.
Did you connect with other leaders, or did you join organisations, or what did you do
I joined other organisations. The other thing that we tend to do a lot at Better Rehab is we always want to make sure that the neck is pointed the right way. So we're not going this way and the body's going that way. So I talk to the other executive team members, and really we sit down and talk and say, this is what I experienced. And we do a lot of experience sharing instead of advice. It's, I experienced this today, and then someone else will say, I experienced it in this way as well. And the reason with advice, sometimes it's very situational. It's very prescriptive. Whereas experience, you can listen to experience. It's almost like an assessment. You can adjust it more, and it allows you to be more creative and in a better mindset when you take in that information. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you have these 41 offices throughout Australia.
Yes.
And first of all, how do you select the person that's going to lead that office? What are you looking for in that person?
I'm looking for someone who is innovative, but someone that shares our values. My values, or our values, are really what defines Better Rehab.
Oh, have you very clearly defined values?
Very, very clear.
What are they?
So our values are, we get shit done. We are people. Frankly, we give a damn. We love what we do. And the last one, which the clinicians actually came up with and presented to us, is we value ourselves. And it's not rhetoric. It's that every single leader from the top to the bottom has to live by those values, because that's how you're going to make changes. Yeah. You're not going to make changes unless you embody that.
And how do you, maybe this is a difficult question for you, but how do you ensure that everybody within those teams is getting the opportunity to grow and develop? Is there trainings that's been provided, or, for somebody that's new to the system, they mightn't have the confidence to do, how do you develop the culture?
That is a really good question. So training's a big one. I think other things that are really important is that all of our annual assessments are about values. So the KPIs will be around your values too and how you're living it. But that's really good. And the other thing is we make sure that our leaders are aware of the individual personalities of every single staff member and are across it, because people learn in different ways. Yeah. Because we've seen it. I was actually talking about this the other day. People have different personalities, and some people are very extroverted and really confident at talking about their skills. But there are so many dark horses out there that are brilliant, but they're not as confident. No. And so how do you shine a light on those people?
So do you do like we do here at Seating Matters, like PDPs, personal development plans?
Absolutely.
So that you assess, you look at their personality and how they best learn and what they like and how to approach them and how to talk to them. And Do you do that
Yes.
with all your staff? That must be quite a task.
So a lot of the team leaders run this and regional managers. But another thing that we like to do is I can be prescriptive, but my regional managers know the regions better. My team leaders are the experts of their team. And I'm happy to provide tools and strategies. But I also, more than that, want to provide my team leaders and my regional managers with the power and the permission to know what works best for their regions. So it's it's centralized but decentralized as well. So yes, we have that, but also a really good mark is you talk to your regional manager or your team leader, and outside of those desktop activities, they know that person and that person's wants and their drives from basically getting to know them on a personal level.
A large percentage of your employees, I would think, are females.
Yes,
Would you?
absolutely.
And traditionally females, maybe speaking personally, I'll just speak personally rather than generalise it because maybe not everybody would agree with me. But as a female, I started my own business as well, similar to you, only a long time ago. And it was that feeling of, am I good enough? Have I enough confidence to do this? Who do they think people might think, who does she think she is? Sort of thing. You may call it imposter syndrome, I think. So tell me a little bit about that, working with more females.
I tell you what, imposter syndrome is something I experience every day. And it's something, even coming in here, a little bit nervous before doing this because you always self-doubt. And I've since found out, and I've looked into the evidence for this, because I was like, surely there's something to it. And a lot of studies show that if you have the elements and the markings of where you're unsure or you're uncertain about your abilities, it actually means that you're a very good leader because you tend to be more empathetic with your staff members. So it's actually a sign that you're on the right track, even though it doesn't feel like it. So that was really reassuring.
I was about to use that word. That reassures me because I have that all the time. I'm thinking, you know, imposter syndrome. So it means you're on the right track, actually.
Yeah.
What's this? If you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Am I saying that
heard
right?
of that. Yeah, the Kruger personality test, is it?
It's where, you know, you are a high achiever, but you just don't think that you are. And you really can't believe. I think it's called.
Okay,
Yeah,
well.
let's look that up.
Yes.
So how do you work when you're working with so many females? How do you address that? Or
We see it all the time. And I think I referenced it before, the dark horses. So you would see a lot of instances where there'll be positions, particularly leadership positions, and someone will have all the elements of being a good leader, except they have no confidence in themselves. And women are particularly bad at this too. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I was thinking about way back when I was second year out, I had my male manager say to me, you need to go for this team leader position. And I said to him, there is no way I can go for that. I am not good enough. And he made me put in an application and then I won the position. So it's very common. So what I tend to do is I really encourage, I think it's really important talking about this, first of all. I think telling people that you're not alone, you know, reassuring that all of our leaders, we've got so many, half of our exec team are leaders. Most of our leadership team are females.
Yeah.
Most of our half of our exec team are females. Most of our leadership team are females as well. The amount of times people have had to have permission to go for those positions is incredible. I'd say over 50%. So it's also educating people that you're not alone. Leaders do feel this and it's natural, I've found. I think the other thing is providing opportunities for people to ask about the position. The one thing I will say is it's a fine line, isn't it? Because when you tap someone on the shoulder to say you should go for a position, it can come across as favoritism. And sometimes someone might be really good for a position and you haven't been able to see them shine. So you might not be tapping the right person on the shoulder, but I think it's about creating an environment where if anyone has an interest in something, they can go and ask multiple people about it. And we have an open dialogue where if you ask that question, you're embraced. It's not a stupid question. Be hungry to learn more and be hungry to put your hand up to go for something.
So at Seating Matters here, we have a culture where we're always trying to develop our staff. So one of our top lines is we grow and develop exceptional people. And we have a morning meeting here Monday to Thursday. And we have like a training or something. So my son did a thing there this week, which is actually something that my husband told him 15 years ago. Sat him down at a table and he explained this to him. And he is now spreading that out to our staff here. And it is about your thinking. And it is your thoughts create your feelings. And your feelings, they cause your actions. And then your actions create the results. So if you are thinking negatively, that's going to make you feel bad. That's going to affect your actions. And that's going to give you negative results. So, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books and that about, developing yourself and your thinking. And it's all about using your feelings to as the monitor of how you're thinking. Because your feelings are your emotional guidance system. So if you feel bad, that means you're thinking bad. If you feel sad, you're thinking sad thoughts. If you feel happy, you're thinking happy thoughts. So people try to change their thoughts. Oh, can't think that. But actually you cannot change your thoughts. But you can change your feelings. So how do you change your feelings? Like listening to music, going for a walk, phoning a friend, reading something. Do something to change your feelings. And when you change your feelings, that changes your thought pattern. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think I see it all the time. I've even unintentionally thinking about it, the success, because Better Rehab is going really well, but it's up and down, just like any business. That's business.
And the bigger it gets, the more challenges you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even thinking about that, the times where it's been really hard are the times where I've leaned into a negative mindset. And once you start getting into that negative mindset, everything's difficult. The NDIS keeps changing. This is outrageous, I start making bad decisions. The actions are bad. The culture does it. You bring everyone down around you as well. And the times that we have done really well and the times that we've grown and we've changed things and disrupted is the times where I've gone, you know what? Everything is changing, but that's life, And I wonder too, that's really interesting that you say that because there's been periods that I can think of during my life where I've felt burnout and it's almost like a cycle, isn't it? You get trapped in that circle and the only way that I've been able to get out of it is by actively changing my feelings about something.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. And we often talk about it, even thinking about that, you've kind of named some of the ways that our leadership team works and our staff and our clinicians and our Better Rehabbers work, is we often talk about making sure that you're positive in the way that you talk about people and your clients. I'm very big on that. It is so easy for you to say, oh, that person was a nightmare. And you walk in the office and you start saying, oh, that person, I can't believe they did this. And then you get in this trap, don't you?
Yeah. You see, there's a thing there as well. I'm sure you agree with the law of attraction. And like things attract. So once you start talking negative, things are going really bad. The NDIS scheme is changing. Everything's going bad. We're going to lose staff. Patients aren't getting, your participants aren't getting the right service. And you go, that one negative thing attracts another. You need to go in the other direction and say, right, things are changing. How can we change with them? What can we do to make a difference? And you just go in the other direction rather than, because the law of attraction is your negative thoughts attract more negative thoughts. You know that yourself. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you start thinking negative, and then this and this. The next thing you nearly have a panic attack. You need to get out of bed because you've thought so many negative. So you need to stop that and go the other way. And it's learning to control your thoughts, your feelings, as opposed to and changing your thought pattern.
Can I also mention something that we talked about before? Was a really profound thing that you were saying to me, and it's really true, is quite often we think the worst of a situation and we'll have a really tragic event. I think a really good one for me was when my mum, not a great thing, it was the worst thing that happened to me, but when my mum passed away. And people have said to me since, I don't know how you got out of bed. I don't know how you survived that. And it's really important to reflect on that and go, it's because you haven't experienced it. When you go through it, you do survive. And it's not, the worst case scenario has occurred, but it's not as bad as I had it was a tragic situation, but I was able to continue on, if that makes sense.
That's right. I've said that, no matter how bad the situation is, the way we think about it, if we think about it in the future, we always make it much worse and much bigger than it actually is ever going to be. No matter, as you say, the death of your mother or something, the way you think about it into the future, it becomes much, much more larger and something that you think, I'm never going to be able to cope with that. But when you bring that back to just a day to day, just a step today, another step, it's amazing how much you can cope with. You look back and you think, how did I get through that?
Yes.
But looking forward, you think, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yes.
And that's what life's like. And life's going to always throw up huge challenges. And if you look forward and think, I'm never going to be able to do that, well, you just paralyze yourself and you don't do anything because you just think, I'm never going to be able to do that. And other people look at how did you get through that? But they would get through it too. They will get through it too. But they just need that confidence. And that thing to say, don't think too far ahead. Just, deal with what's happening today and what's happening this hour. If it's something very imminent, you just deal with what's happening this very hour and the next hour and the next hour. Rather than your mind makes it much more, much bigger than it actually is.
That is really true. And, people quite often will look at, on the other side of it, on the flip side, a really positive event. So people look at better rehab and go, wow, and you said it before, 800 or 700, that's massive. How did you get here? How did I get here? We had a goal and we just plodded. My husband and I always say we're plodders. One step ahead of the other, look at that goal and don't just keep going. And I think that there's something to that, isn't there? There's not forgetting, losing sight of the way. I think you described it really well. The goal is this way on a football pitch. You might not go straight ahead to get there, but if you keep on that path, you'll take a strange route, but eventually you'll get there. And I really feel like there's something to that.
I read this thing one time, or I listened to it, I can't remember, but it was, so you put in your sat nav, your destination, and say if I was going to Dublin from here, it's a 3-hour drive. So I put the destination in, I get into my car and it's dark. So I put on my headlights and all I see is that little bit of the road that's lit up. That's all I see. I don't see Dublin when I get into the car, but I have set my sat nav and the sat nav says you are going to arrive in Dublin. Now, and all you see when you're in is those few feet in front of you, or those few yards where the road is lit up. And that's, you drive that little bit, and then another little bit, and then you come to a diversion, and the sat nav takes you off your path. But the sat nav has still got the destination in, and it might take you 3.5 hours because there was a diversion. But you only saw that little bit of the road, and that's what success is, and that's how you grew your business. Is that you just saw that little bit of the road in front of you, but you knew where you were going and you didn't get distracted halfway through. I'm just going to go back home now. You don't do that if you're going to Dublin. You don't, well, I'm not there yet, so I'm just going to go back home. You know, you don't go
Exactly.
back home. You just keep driving till you get to Dublin because that's what you put in your sat nav.
And there might be a roadblock. You might go down one road and then there's a roadblock and maybe you'll go back a little bit, but you'll find another path
Yeah,
to get to Dublin.
yeah.
Very, very much
Yeah.
agree with that.
But you don't turn around and say, I'm just going back home. You know, and sitting
Absolutely.
back. I think one thing that's very common between both our companies is that, and I have been passionate about this since day one, is that we always put our patients and our carers at the centre of everything we do. So we're always here to make life easier for the care staff that's looking after our patients and also having our patient at the centre of everything. So I'm sure there are loads of stories you could tell me, and we just love to hear one where you really felt that you made a difference to someone.
There's so many. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about running Better Days and Better Rehab is just the amount of impact that you make. So a lot of the things that I encourage with staff is to be innovative and creative, as you said, and not procedural. And that's resulted in so many situations where people have drastically changed people's lives. Situations where you go out and see a client and you can tell there's a bit of intention to communicate. We've had about 3 people. The one that I'm thinking of is a lady who was in a nursing home, 45 years old. The staff member went out there. It was just meant to be a pressure care assessment. The OT could tell that there was an intention to communicate. And so they contacted our speechy in the team and said, hey, I think that this person is actually understanding what we're saying. Speechy then went out and saw this client.
Speech, you've been speech therapist?
Yes, speech and language pathologist.
For those of us who are not.
Yes, went out and was like, you're onto it. This person can actually understand everything that's being said. They just can't communicate. So then they underwent an assessment, got a high-tech gaze device, and this person spoke their first words. I mean, that's unbelievable. 45 years. And this has happened quite a number of times. So really what it's about is being aware and looking and not afraid to ask questions, even if it's wrong. Maybe the speaker would go out there and go, actually, that isn't correct. But unless you're inquisitive and you're looking for that and being open to it, something, you can get left behind, can't you, in the health system?
But the nice thing about that story is that your OT was able to go back and speak to the speech therapist and get her out almost right away, I presume within a few days or whatever. Whereas that's where the challenge comes, and that's one of the reasons why I left the health service. If I wanted to go and find a speech therapist for that patient, I probably couldn't find one, and it would wait months, and the opportunity maybe would pass. So that's the nice thing about what you're doing, is that you've access to the whole range of services.
I mean, and that's how we ended up with speech pathologists and physios, because we wanted to have that collaborative approach. And, and if I want to change the system, I can't go, well, this is my blinkers, we're only OTs. I've got to get outside my comfort zone. And that was getting outside of my comfort zone, employing a different discipline, because you don't feel like an expert when you're with someone else, and it can feel really scary. But it was the best thing that we did, because it has meant that we're much more holistic in our approach. But another example, actually the opposite of that, was our physio went out and saw a client who was in a wheelchair. Have I told you this story?
No, don't think so.
And he had this wonderful wheelchair, but he hadn't left home in 20 years. And so when he talked to the suppliers said, because he had been lined almost in he was in a reclined position. Because it was 20 years, you can understand this. They said, can't be done. Contractures, he'll have postural drop if we bring him up, and just too hard, don't do it. So the great thing about those OTs, and the thing I love about our staff, and this is who we employ, is, excuse me, never say never. If you think it can be done, You try and make it happen. So they had to go through suppliers, and they found a supplier who did a custom wheelchair for them. And they slowly, over an 8-month period, got them up, worked with the physios and the OTs. Yeah. And there's this fantastic photo of them going outside for the first time in 20 years. He went outside. Our OTs were crying. The suppliers were crying. There was a rainbow. It was perfect. And people, the neighbours, came out to see this person go out for the first time in 20 years. This is why we do it. Because, you know, I really think it's our responsibility. I trained as an OT to make a difference. And the reason I'm trying to run this company is to make an impact in people's lives just like that.
That just reminds me of a story. I went down to a care home years and years ago in Donegal, and we went to see a particular patient, and we did the assessment for a chair and got her out. And right beside her in this ward was another lady. And I says, what about that lady? And the nurse says, oh, she can't sit out. She has never sat out for years. There's no chair to sit her. And I says, well, I would never say never until we would try it. Is there funds available? And she says, oh, yeah. She says, like, it was a private nursing home. She says, there would be funds, but she can't be seated. And that just was what I wanted to hear. She can't be seated. And I remember us getting her up like that as well. It was difficult. Like, she had contractures. She had been in bed for a long, long time, but we got her out to sit. And it was good. And the nurse just couldn't believe it. It wasn't that the nurse didn't want to. She was told by suppliers or whatever that she can't be seated. And it was really such a great opportunity just to show what could be done. So
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, actually, I was thinking about it, that story that I referenced before about the patient Seating Matters was the supplier that helped us. So we went through. Yes. So we spoke to a number of people that said it wasn't possible. And I think it was Adrian that I spoke to. And I remember we talked through this situation, and he said, you know what? We can definitely help with that. So you're making a huge impact in Australia.
Well, we love working with Australia. First of all, I love Australia because I got engaged there many years ago, and I was out there when I was a student. But also, what I love about Australia is they do everything almost the way we do it here. And Adrian is like another son, and he was trained up, and he really does put the patient and the client and the care staff at the heart of everything he does. He's very, very good like that. So we love working with them because we know people in Australia are in good hands. And I'm delighted that you're finding them a benefit and a partner for you, because it's important when you're out with your participants that you have a partner there that's going to help you achieve your goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really important. The only way that you can achieve or will disrupt the system or change things or achieve great results is having a network of partners that believe in the same goal. And it's really hard to find people that align with you. So that's why it's always important when you find someone like Seating Matters, because we're just so aligned with what we want to achieve.
And I think it really has come down without taking the credit myself. It has come from that ethos, that occupational therapy, starting off there and always doing the right thing and always making sure that the person comes first, and that even though we're in a business, that it's not about the business, it's about the person. And that's something that has followed right through Seating Matters for the last 25 years. And your business is very, very similar. Started off the same. So it's really good to find that alignment, I think. Yeah. So, Rachel, it has been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you really good luck with better days in London and better rehab in Australia. And I'm glad to see that we all work well together in Australia. So I'm looking forward to meeting you again out there. Australia is one of my very favourite places. So
you're always welcome.
And I hope you come back and see us in Ireland again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Thank you, Rachel.